Welcome to Wealth and Means. Advice dressed up like hard work.
Each week, we explore ideas that help you pause, reflect, and think more deeply about the opportunities all around you.
It's the perfect mix. A little information, a few stats, some real-world insights, and just enough deep talk to make you feel smarter before your second cup of coffee.
Today's episode is Stacked: What You Didn't See in the News, your 5-minute head start in Wake Up Ready, a knowledge bomb on gratitude, Humor Me, the greater debate, and we'll close with our Invent Again spotlight on Frank Zybach, the 7th grade dropout who goes on to feed the world.
A quick thank you to our sponsor, Nost Moments at nostmoments.io. Share your most precious memories. Share the Nost Moments.
Wealth, how are you doing today?
I am great means I am really excited for this episode.
All right, let's get started then. What you didn't see in the news. Because the real stories don't always trend, they ripple.
While the world was doom-scrolling interest rates and Taylor Swift's stadium-era diplomacy, a bunch of high-impact stories slipped past the mainstream radar. Let's fix that. March Madness came early for the FBI. Over 30 people, including Hall of Famer-turned-coach Chauncey Billups and current player Terry Rozier, were swept up in an illegal betting ring prosecutors say used NBA stars as celebrity bait for rigged high-roller poker games with alleged mafia ties. Billups was placed on leave as the probe unfolded. The timing is brutal, legal sports betting is booming, and the league's integrity is suddenly the story. Expect tighter disclosures, third-party monitoring, and some very unfun halftime PSAs.
If the point-shaving era taught us anything, it's that trust is fragile. Do you think the leagues open up real-time integrity data to sportsbooks and fans?
They may have to, at minimum, standardize transparency across teams and clearer lines between player access and betting ecosystems. Speaking of trust, Netflix's Love is Blind Season 9 didn't just stumble. It triggered worst season ever pile-ons and a search spike for Is Love is Blind staged? The showrunner publicly defended the season, which only fueled the discourse. Translation: viewers still want drama, but they also want receipts. If producers can't calibrate authenticity versus chaos, they risk backlash on delivery day.
So the next hit reality format is the one that proves it's real in real time.
Exactly. Think fewer Frankenbites, more verifiable timelines. On a heavier note, Kim Kardashian revealed she suffered a brain aneurysm, which she connected to extreme divorce stress. Overnight, what is a brain aneurysm spiked. Beyond the sympathy wave, this is a stress culture referendum. Expect more calm capitalism, wellness bundles, mental health tie-ins, and a cottage industry of proof-of-balance content.
Brands are already repainting everything in soothing neutrals and adding mindfulness trackers, the monetization of serenity.
Meanwhile, women's sports had a moment with a capital M. After the New York Liberty's title run, searches for Betnijah Laney and WNBA salary raise surged, alongside very practical queries like, is the WNBA Finals best of 5 or 7? That's a signal. New fans are onboarding fast, sponsors are doing the math, and pay equity is moving from slogan to spreadsheet. And while most of us were glued to screens, millions actually looked up. A rare October comet drove the week's top how-to search, how to see the comet tonight, and even breakout interest in the anti-tail phenomenon, where a comet's dust tail seems to point toward the sun. Wonder still trends. Science communicators just got a primetime slot.
Trading pixels for Starlight, not a bad swap.
Fandom also flexed its muscles. After Adam Driver confirmed Disney shelved a Ben Solo Kylo Ren spin-off, fans organized hard, up to and including a banner flown over a studio lot, and searches even spiked for Ben Solo movie Soderbergh. Studios aren't just managing audiences anymore, they're managing movements. Ignore them and you court a boycott. Listen, and you might inherit a co-writer's room. In tech, an under-the-radar story with over-the-top implications. Google is reportedly ready to supply Anthropic with up to 1 million AI chips and invest tens of billions into Claude. It ranked mid-pack on viral lists, but momentum is high. This isn't a partnership, it's a compute treaty. Whoever controls capacity controls velocity. Expect tighter supply, exclusivity agreements, and more regulator side-eye. including toward the chip vendors minting the shovels.
Quiet story now, market moving later. Classic second tier today, front page tomorrow.
Europe, meanwhile, is not whispering. The EU signaled Meta and TikTok violated the Digital Services Act. Think potential fines up to 6% of global revenue and mandatory data access compliance. If these actions stick, platform transparency norms will reset globally. And yes, those compliance costs eventually show up in your subscription tab. Markets had their own circus. Tesla turned nearly 95 million shares after earnings, Nvidia pushed past 130 million as AI optimism stayed hot, and Ford ripped 12% in a single day on 298 plus million shares after a clean earnings beat and labor clouds parting. The jaw-dropper was Beyond Meat. About 803 million shares changed hands in a single session as the stock plunged roughly 23% amid restructuring dilution chatter, a reminder that extreme volume cuts both ways.
That's the kind of tape that convinces people they can retire on day trading until Monday shows up.
Exactly. In the small cap and OTC lanes, speculative fire spread fast. Wellgistics Health ripped 185% on 724 million shares, volume you usually see in megacaps. Open Door traded 200+ million shares and popped 13% on housing rebound hopes. Intel put up 246 million on strong prints, Bitfarms 103 million on a Bitcoin bounce. And one to file under AI infrastructure halo. Solidion Technology surged nearly 300% after pitching a new battery system for data centers. Biotech did its rocket ship thing too. Spruce Biosciences exploded about 1,378% on an FDA breakthrough therapy tag. Micropharma Scienture leapt 354% after its first commercial drug deal. Innovation still moves mountains, and sometimes cliff edges. Know your catalysts, know your risk. Housing became a proxy for policy. Fannie Mae trading spiked ahead of Q3 results and the October housing outlook, as investors tried to front-run Washington's next moves. In a week dominated by political mobilization, yes, those nationwide No Kings protests and even shutdown chatter, Fannie turned into a read-through for credit and confidence. When policy feels unstable, housing becomes the tell.
And in the OTC backdrop, 10 cents ADR kept dollar volume heavy, a reminder that U.S. investors still route around geography when they want exposure to foreign tech giants.
Now for a cautionary tale. Airway pitched a pivot into tokenized equity and bragged about a $30 million Solana windfall, then announced a 1-for-50 reverse split. Web3 glitz met Wall Street grits. When hype outruns cash flow and compliance, someone gets left holding the digital bag. 2 under-noticed cultural tech ripples to watch. First, TikTok's Group 7 trend. Snackable, accessible, cross-demo is in peak growth mode. It's a case study in how fast lightweight formats can dominate feed time. Second, the measurement wars. As AI features like overviews and circle to search reshape discovery, Google is pushing Meridian, an open-source marketing mix model. Translation for operators: the measurement layer is where strategy and spend is migrating next. Finally, the macro wallpaper, the IMF's global economy in flux, slower growth, sticky inflation, explains the schizophrenia on the tape. Defensive flows and roulette wheel speculation can coexist. That's how Nvidia and Beyond Meat both end up on the volume leaderboard for very different reasons.
So the market's on espresso and melatonin, jittery but somehow still awake.
Exactly. And that's your week. The stories you didn't see, but definitely should have. Because staying informed isn't about reading every headline. It's about catching the ones everyone else missed.
What a week. Anything interesting going on next week?
Means you need to wake up ready. Your 5-minute head start on the markets, the economy, and the stories that will move your week. Grab that second cup of coffee and maybe a helmet. Monday, October 27th. We start at 8:30 a.m. Eastern with U.S. durable goods orders, the cleanest read on business spending for long-lived equipment. The question is whether companies pressed the gas on CapEx or tapped the brakes heading into the fourth quarter. The implication is simple. Softer orders hint at slower growth ahead. Firmer orders keep the soft landing story alive. Before the bell, PayPal and United Health report. PayPal tells us how digital checkout is really holding up. United Health gives a pulse on medical costs and insurance trend lines. If PayPal shows weak spend or United Health flags rising costs, the consumer narrative opens the week on a wobble.
If both come in soft, are we basically starting the week pricing in a cautious consumer?
Exactly. It doesn't end the story, but it sets the tone. Tuesday, the morning brings housing prices, consumer confidence, and a regional factory check from the Richmond Fed. The question is whether households still feel wealthy enough and confident enough to keep spending. The implication is that a drop in confidence or cooling home prices would nudge earnings guidance lower for consumer-exposed names. After the close, Visa, Mondelez, and Booking take the stage. Visa is the real-time read on transaction volumes and cross-border travel. If Visa's volumes are strong, travel and leisure can breathe. If not, the market will start trimming holiday optimism. Wednesday. Circle 2 p.m. on your calendar in bold red ink. Fed Decision Day. Jerome Powell steps up to the mic after the two-day FOMC huddle. Will he hint at a rate cut or channel his inner Gandalf? You shall not pivot. But plot twist. Just hours later, we get the megatech trifecta. Alphabet, Microsoft, and Meta all report after the close. So investors basically go from macro heartburn to micro meltdown within a single news cycle.
That's cruel scheduling.
Cruel but cinematic, because the Fed's tone can instantly reprice these tech darlings before they even open their books. One hawkish word from Powell, and the AI trade goes from rocket ship to re-entry burn. Meanwhile, before lunch, Boeing, Caterpillar, and ADP report industrial pulse checks that tell us if the real economy's still lifting off. Oh, and the EIA oil inventory drop at 10:30 could move energy markets faster than an OPEC tweet. Wednesdays, basically Wall Street's Super Bowl. Thursday. The first read on U.S. third-quarter GDP arrives at 8:30 a.m. Eastern. The question is whether growth is broad-based or narrow and inventory-heavy. The implication is that a strong headline with weak internals will not buy much patience from investors. Europe checks in with Eurozone GDP and the ECB decision earlier in the day, a useful barometer for dollar and global risk tone. After the close, Apple and Amazon report alongside MasterCard. Apple and Amazon tie the macro to the micro: devices, services, cloud, and holiday demand. MasterCard finishes the payment story that Visa started on Tuesday. If GDP looks sturdy and both networks confirm healthy spending, tech and consumer names get permission to guide confidently into year-end. If not, expect guidance haircuts.
So Thursday is growth meets checkout. If either blinks, we rethink the quarter.
Precisely. It's the confirmation or contradiction day. Friday. The week ends with labor cost data and energy sector heavyweight earnings. At 8:30 a.m., the Employment Cost Index, ECI, for Q3 lands. Key question: are wage increases staying hot? Implication: high wage inflation locks the Fed in tight mode. Low wage growth offers room for a future pivot. Then pre-market, ExxonMobil and Chevron earnings, big names in energy. Their commentary on production, capital spending, and costs will set the tone for the commodity energy complex.
Good way to wrap the week. Rate plus labor meets oil majors.
Yup, if labor costs surprise high and energy firms issue weak outlooks, we could see broad market risk emerging just as we head out the door. Saturday and Sunday are chill. The markets are off, but don't switch off your radar. No scheduled U.S. economic data, but the globe keeps spinning. Any surprise geopolitical event or OPEC Plus move overnight could shake things when we reopen Monday. Key question: will the weekend bring a surprise that changes sentiment before trading resumes? So there you have it, your roadmap for a triple threat week. Inflation and rate signals, growth data, and heavyweight corporate earnings all colliding.
For our audience, what's your one takeaway?
Be alert, sequence matters. Markets don't just react to one data point, they react to how the inflation reading influences the Fed, how the Fed direction impacts tech valuations, and how earnings tie back to consumption and growth. Know the chain, and you stay ahead.
And if you had to call one event as the most likely market shock moment?
Wednesday's Fed decision at 2 p.m. ET. That's the magnet. Everything else orbits around it. If the Fed drops a surprise or signals something unexpected, all bets are off. All right, team, that's your Wake Up Ready rundown for the week of October 20th. Stay sharp, stay curious, and remember, Information is power, but timing is everything.
And now a knowledge bomb. You know that feeling when your to-do list somehow regenerates overnight, like a hydra with a calendar app? You knock out one big task, feel proud for about 3 seconds, and then suddenly you're behind again. Yeah, that's the age of the grind. We live in a world that worships motion, not meaning, where busy is a badge and exhaustion somehow got rebranded as excellence. But here's the twist. The antidote to burnout might not be another productivity hack or mindfulness app. It might be something much simpler. Gratitude. Now, before your inner skeptic rolls its eyes, I get it. Gratitude sounds soft, like something you write on a sticky note after yoga. But this isn't about forced positivity. It's about perspective, rewiring how your brain measures progress. You see, the brain's reward system is a tricky beast. It's trained to chase novelty, to crave the next goal, the next hit of dopamine. But when we practice gratitude, when we pause to actually register what's already good, something powerful happens. Our brains start building a record of sufficiency instead of scarcity. We stop asking what's missing and start noticing what's here. Think about how radical that is in a world that monetizes dissatisfaction. Gratitude doesn't kill ambition, it grounds it. It reminds us that success is supposed to feel like something. It's not a finish line, it's a rhythm. And that rhythm gets lost when every day feels like a sprint to nowhere. Let me paint this visually. Imagine your life as a calendar. Endless meetings, deadlines, pings. When you inject gratitude into that schedule, you're not deleting work, you're reframing time. Instead of I have to, it becomes I get to. I have to lead this meeting becomes I get to lead a team. I have to work late becomes I get to finish something that matters. Gratitude doesn't erase the grind, it just retunes it. The research backs this up. Studies show that people who practice gratitude sleep better, focus longer, and bounce back faster from stress. It literally rewires the brain. More dopamine, less cortisol. In other words, gratitude is the anti-burnout tool hiding in plain sight. But here's the catch. Gratitude isn't a one-and-done epiphany. It's a discipline. The same way you schedule meetings, you've got to schedule stillness. The same way you check your messages, you check your mindset. Because if you don't deliberately appreciate what's working, your brain will default to what's missing every time. So here's your mini experiment for the week. Every morning before the notifications flood in, name 3 things that are enough. Not perfect, not peak, just enough. Watch what happens. Your breathing slows. Your shoulders drop. The day opens up a little. That's gratitude at work. The quiet kind, the grounded kind, the kind that lets you stay ambitious without losing your soul in the process. In the age of the grind, gratitude isn't weakness, it's rebellion. Because saying thank you to the moment you're in might be the most productive thing you do all day.
I love that means it wasn't even grading.
Too funny, wealth. Too funny. Humor me some more.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Thanks.
Thanks who?
Thanks for opening the door. I just wanted to say I'm grateful for you.
Too cute.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Olive.
Olive who?
All of you, and I'm thankful every day.
And now, the greater debate. Each week, we host the greater debate, the debate that should happen, but hasn't. Through the power of imagination, caffeine, and let's be honest, a full night's recovery sleep, we conjure what that debate could sound like. Picture this. The lights come up on a stage that looks like it was designed by an AI prompt. Neon lines, minimalist chairs, and a giant screen flashing the words, The Greater Debate. But through your Meta Ray-Bans, we each see the title in our own language. The crowd is buzzing, not a sleepy TED crowd, more like the all-in audience after a double espresso and an IPO. Tonight's motion, universal translation, will unite humanity. On my left, Sam Altman, Mr. OpenAI himself, the man building the bridges. On my right, Trevor Noah, the man reminding us why bridges need tolls. Sam steps up first, calm, confident, Silicon Valley Zen. He says, imagine waking up in a world where everyone can understand you instantly. Scientists, coders, teachers, creators, no subtitles, no barriers. That's not science fiction. That's next quarter's release. The crowd leans in. You can feel that shared optimism that only tech people can muster. Half world peace, half product launch. Then Trevor takes the mic, and you can tell he's about to detonate that optimism with a smile. He says, that's beautiful, Sam. Sounds like a TED Talk, narrated by ChatGPT. The audience cracks up. But let me tell you what gets lost when every accent, every idiom, every rhythm of speech gets flattened into one global default, he continues. You lose texture, you lose identity. I grew up switching between Zulu, English, and Afrikaans. Each one changed who I was. In one language, I'm funny. In another, I'm polite. And in another, terrified of my mom. I swear, in that moment, the entire crowd remembers their grandmother's voice, the one that no translator could ever quite capture. Now, Sam's not rattled. He just smiles, that patient innovator smile. He counters, Trevor, you're assuming AI flattens language instead of learning from it. The more voices we train on, the richer it gets. We're not erasing diversity, we're scaling it. You can almost hear the venture capitalists nodding in unison. But Trevor's ready. Sam, that assumes the machine understands me. Ever seen AI try to translate South African sarcasm? The crowd laughs. When my aunt says, oh, you're looking smart today, the machine thinks it's a compliment. Reality, she means you look like an idiot. He pauses. Machines don't grasp irony or power or history. They just predict words. And if one company's translator becomes the global default, that's not a bridge. That's cultural colonialism with a silicon accent. The room goes wild. Even Sam's laughing, the good kind of laugh, the one that means touché. Then something rare happens, humility. Sam admits, you're right, models reflect their data. If we train on English, the global voice could sound a lot like Silicon Valley. He pauses. That's why translation should be a shared project. Every culture should help teach the machine. He looks at Trevor and says, AI isn't replacing your Zulu aunt. It's giving her a microphone. Trevor nods, but he's not letting him off that easily. Sure, he says, but microphones come with terms of service. Someone decides what gets amplified and what gets filtered. In the name of clarity, we'll sand down the slang, the dialect, the emotion. Connection without difference isn't understanding. It's assimilation with better UX. I can practically hear the audience murmuring. That line lands like a punch in slow motion. Then comes the 1-2 combo. Sam fires first. Trevor, culture evolves. The printing press, radio, the internet, every tool changed how we talk, and yet we're still telling stories. Maybe universal translation isn't flattening us. Maybe it's evolution. Wouldn't you rather have 1 billion people laugh with you than 10 million laugh near you? And Trevor, oh, he swings back with poetry. That's beautiful, Sam, and terrifying, because if everyone laughs with me at the same joke, we've lost something sacred. Comedy, like culture, needs friction. If every joke lands everywhere, then the world stops surprising us. And if AI translation makes every story sound the same, we haven't united humanity. We've just hired a machine to narrate our extinction in perfect grammar. The room freezes. Then explosion. Applause, whistles, the sound of people realizing they've just witnessed a heavyweight round. In closing, Sam, ever the optimist, says, technology doesn't erase meaning. People do. Translation is a tool. It can be a hammer or a handshake. If we choose openness and inclusivity, it can multiply understanding beyond any dream. That's worth the risk. And Trevor, with that half smile, brings it home. A handshake means nothing if you forget the story behind each hand. Build the bridge, yes, but keep your accent, your inside jokes, your untranslatable words, because those are proof that humanity still has something machines can't learn, meaning. He doesn't drop the mic, but he might as well have. Ladies and gentlemen, Sam Altman and Trevor Noah, the man who builds the future and the man who reminds it to stay human. If that's not a universal language, I don't know what is.
So what's the verdict?
Honestly, it's a draw. Sam made you believe in the miracle of connection. Trevor reminded you why connection without culture isn't progress, it's erasure. And somewhere between the two, you realize that maybe the point of language isn't just to be understood, it's to be felt. So tonight's debate wasn't really about translation at all. It was about the one thing that still makes us human in an age of perfect comprehension: mystery.
Let's invent again with Frank Zybach. Picture Nebraska in the 1940s. Dust, drought, and a farmer named Frank Zybach who never stopped tinkering with metal or ideas. He dropped out of school after 7th grade to help on the family farm and in his father's blacksmith shop. But his curiosity never left. While other farmers cursed the sky, Zybach built things. His first patent, a driverless tractor that plowed in perfect circles. His second great idea, one that would transform agriculture forever, was the center pivot irrigation system, a machine that made it possible to grow crops where nature said you couldn't. Zybach's invention looked almost whimsical. Long metal pipes on wheels, slowly rotating around a fixed point, sprinkling water in perfect arcs. But the simplicity masked a revolution. Before the 1950s, irrigation was backbreaking and inefficient, flooding fields or dragging heavy pipes by hand or tractor. Zybach turned that grind into geometry. His 1952 patent created a self-propelled, precisely aligned system that could water an entire 135-acre circle with one pivot. Valley Manufacturing in Nebraska saw its potential, bought the patent, and refined it. The company, now Valmont Industries, built an empire on it. By the time Zybach died in 1980, his design was reshaping the Great Plains. By 2013, nearly 28 million acres in the U.S. were watered by center pivots. Those green circles visible from space, that's Zybach's signature. The impact was enormous. Center pivot irrigation transformed dry, wind-blown plains into the breadbasket of the world. It stabilized yields, cushioned farm incomes, and helped fuel the post-war population boom. The Ogallala Aquifer, a vast underground reservoir, became the quiet partner in Zybach's success, feeding water through his moving pipes to grow corn, soybeans, wheat, and cotton where rain was unreliable. His invention turned marginal land into productive land, and in doing so, redefined American agriculture's geography and its ambitions. But every technological leap comes with a shadow. The very success of center pivot irrigation helped drive the depletion of the Ogallala itself. Millions of gallons drawn each day, water tables dropping faster than nature could refill them. What began as a triumph of ingenuity became decades later a test of sustainability. The challenge now is not to abandon Zybach's design, but to upgrade its intelligence. Today's center pivots are the descendants of his steel dream, only now they carry sensors, GPS systems, and AI analytics. They measure soil moisture, read weather forecasts, and adjust their spray patterns in real time. Farmers can run them from smartphones. Variable rate irrigation systems tailor every drop, mapping out the field's microclimates. Some are powered by solar arrays, cutting energy costs and emissions. Zybach's mechanical rotation has evolved into a data-driven orbit. His invention also sits at the heart of modern debates about food security and climate adaptation. With global demand for food climbing and droughts intensifying, efficient irrigation is no longer a luxury, it's survival tech. The question isn't just how to produce more, but how to do it without draining the planet dry. Governments, ag-tech startups, and climate investors are all circling the same problem Zybach solved once before: how to get more crop per drop. If Frank Zybach were alive today, he'd probably be fascinated, not by how much water we can pump, but by how precisely we can manage it. His legacy is not just mechanical, it's philosophical. He proved that a farmer's innovation could change the world. Now it's up to us to make sure that innovation keeps spinning, only smarter, leaner, and sustainable enough for the next century. And that's it for another episode of Wealth and Means, advice dressed up like hard work.
We hope you enjoyed the range, from betting to big tech earnings, gratitude to great debate, and crop circles to creativity.
Subscribe, rate, and share this episode. It helps more than you think.
We do this for you, to help you have a better week, a sharper mind, and maybe even a longer attention span.
And a special thanks to our sponsor, Nost Moments. because the best investments are still your memories.
Until next time, stay curious
Stay kind.
and keep compounding.